Yeah.
And by the way, it's not about crypto. Remember, this is about centralized finance. DeFi is the point. That's when this thing came apart. And it's really a failure, it appears, of Gary Gensler to actually deal with the bad guys. You got to ask yourself, Charles, where was he on Celsius? Where was he on Voyager? Where was he on Terra Luna? And now, where was Gary Gensler on FTX?
Okay, welcome back, everybody, to Altcoin Daily. My name's Austin. The FTX collapse is not a crypto failure, says Minnesota Representative Tom Emmer. And in this clip I'm about to share with you, Congressperson Tom Emmer absolutely destroys Gary Gensler for not protecting the people like he should have, for his near complicitness in the FTX collapse. You see, why was Gary Gensler so close to Sam Bankman-Fried? Why did the SEC go after other companies like Library, which weren't hurting the public, but then give so much leeway to FTX, which ended up destroying the public? You see, it's not DeFi which failed us, it's CeFi, centralized finance. Tom Emmer explains, this is about a 3-minute clip. And then after, the Fed meeting just happened today. They revealed their minutes, and if you hold Bitcoin, this affects us all. We'll go over this after the clip.
This literally is not just a failure of FTX, it's a failure of CeFi, that's known as centralized finance. It is not a failure of crypto. This is a failure of, it's a failure of Sam Bankman-Fried. It's a failure of business ethics, and it's a failure of the government oversight and regulatory procedures.
Yeah, and I wanted to bring that up because you've always been a champion of technology, the role that it's played in the prosperity of Americans, and you've been a very strong critic of Gary Gensler. You've urged accountability. What's going on there? Why? I mean, what do you think? What are they telling you about the inability to add clarification to this issue, making it worse?
We've got major questions, Charles. I mean, look, Gary Gensler and the SEC, apparently they had meetings last March with Sam Bankman-Fried and executives from FTX and a trading firm here in the U.S., and they were working apparently with Sam Bankman-Fried and others to give them special treatment from the SEC that others aren't getting. And they announced a partnership with this trading firm last April. We kept trying to find out what exactly the partnership is all about. We didn't get those answers. And obviously, Sam Bankman-Fried then was pushing special treatment legislation through Congress. And when it was finally revealed what it was, and the industry actually started raising red flags all over the place, that's when this thing came apart. And it's really a failure, it appears, of Gary Gensler to actually deal with the bad guys. You got to ask yourself, Charles, where was he on Celsius? Where was he on Voyager? Where was he on Terra Luna? And now, where was Gary Gensler on FTX? Yeah. This is exactly what he's supposed to be doing. And Terry was talking about that. What is the regulator responsible for this doing, going after good actors in the community and working backroom deals, it appears, with people who are doing nefarious things?
Representative, we got less than a minute to go, about 30 seconds. Sam Bankman-Fried supposed to be at a New York Times Dill book conference. Last I looked yesterday, he was still on the program, but they also added Ben Affleck. I don't know what that's all about, but I mean, he's still being feted by parts of the industry as some sort of wonder kind. I mean, what the heck is going on?
Charles, the New York Times is not the industry. I've stopped trying to understand the New York Times. They wrote a puff piece on him within the last week for some reason. Here's a guy who mismanaged funds, it appears. There's, a million investors out there. There's $10 billion, that $8 to $10 billion. We need to get to the bottom of this. We need to understand why Gary Gensler and the SEC were not doing their job. We need to understand how this was allowed to get to the point where people and their savings are getting hurt. Yeah. That's exactly what the regulator is supposed to be taking care of. Yeah. And by the way, it's not about crypto. Remember, this is about centralized finance. DeFi is the point. They're going after decentralized finance. This is not what it's about. Right. It's not about the crypto industry. This is about Sam Bankman-Fried. It's about the regulator, Gary Gensler, and it's about centralized finance, which needs to be brought under our regulatory umbrella. Yeah. And Gary Gensler has done nothing.
Nice to see conversations like this happening in real time. This is an ongoing story, so make sure you click subscribe, stay up to date. And as of this morning, Bitcoin clings to 16K, ahead and actually now behind the Fed minutes. They've already happened. Bitcoin rallying a bit on the news, so it must have been positive in some sense. And the significance of the Fed minutes, it just gives us an insight on how the Federal Reserve is seeing current inflation. If they suggest that inflation is still bad, that would be bearish. We would expect them to raise rates, continue raising rates just as aggressively. Yet, if they say, hey, inflation is looking better, that's bullish. And of course, nothing is conclusive until the next meeting. These are all just sort of hints they're giving us. But here were the results. A little bearish to start, Fed minutes saying, participants agreed that there were few signs of inflation pressures easing, essentially meaning don't expect a full pivot. Inflation is not done yet. In fact, several Fed officials predicted that interest rates would peak at higher levels, so they still think, they're still saying they're going to have to raise rates, essentially, continue to raise rates. Yet, it wasn't all bearish. Some of the insight was bullish. For example, the minutes of the November 1st, 2nd Fed policy meeting show that a substantial majority of participants thought a slowing in the pace of interest rate hikes would be appropriate soon. So while they do not want to stop, they do think, hey, it might be a good idea if we slow instead of, they've had basically three or four in a row of 0.75 or 75 basis point rate hikes, ultra aggressive. They're saying they can't keep that up forever. And actually, after getting more updates, to me, it sort of appears that they're definitely going to increase rates like they've been doing at their next meeting. And honestly, it looks like they're either going to, maybe they'll take it down to just a 50-point basis rate hike, or possibly keep the 75, which is still maintaining their aggression. For example, participants in the minutes meeting observed that the labor market remained tight, meaning the economy is remaining strong, so they can afford to keep raising rates if the labor market is still good, as well as all participants agreed that a 75 basis point increase was necessary and a next step towards making monetary policy sufficiently restrictive. So Bitcoin did jump briefly after the Fed minutes came out, showing officials favor slower rate hikes. Again, this is an ongoing story, so the minute I get information, I will make a video, I will keep you informed. And by the way, we will be at Bitcoin 2023 next year, the largest crypto conference in existence. Use code Altcoin Daily for 10% off your tickets, and ticket prices are going to go up, so make sure you get your ticket early if you know you're coming.
Fantastic brother, fantastic business partner and teammate. You're the best. Altcoin Daily for life.
Thanks, man. I love you.
Oh.